Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and kind of break down personal branding for you. So I guarantee you it's not scary. I'm going to break it down. It'll be fun. Okay, so as Katie said, I am Claire Bond. I am a personal brand strategist, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Claire Bond Group. And we help CEOs and executives build their personal brands so that they can be leading authorities in their space. So we've helped thousands of them do it and learned a lot along the way. Things are constantly evolving in the marketing space. So I'm going to kind of break it down for you. All right, so why does your personal brand matter? You guys are going to be out there looking for your job. This is so important because your recruiters are going to be doing a Google search. You know that you do a Google search on that date that you find on Hinge or Tinder or whatever. They're doing a Google search on you. Your recruiters are doing a Google search on you. And eventually, when you get into your career, the bottom one there, people don't hire law firms, they hire lawyers. So you need to stand out. And your personal brand is a great way to do it authentically. So you'll see a lot of people, like, when you're, I don't know how many of you guys are in LA, but you see a lot of billboards, right? There's like billboards for lawyers and all these kind of things. Yeah, that's really old school way of doing it. The legal field and the realtor field, they just love the billboards. Your personal brand is the way to do it today because people actually want to know that you care, that you're human, and that you have feelings. So that is where to do it. Okay, let's go. So Jeff Bezos really said it best. It is all of the things about you when you walk into that room. That is what your personal brand is. So a lot of people get fixated on one aspect of their personal brand, but that's not it. It's the gut feeling. It's the intuition you have about somebody. It is that first impression. That is what your personal brand actually is. It is everything about you. Okay, so I've learned so much doing my job, and I just want to give you guys, I want to set you up for success. This one is key. It may seem super simple, but please, please hear me out. Your personal brand is not for you. It is not for you. You have to throw your ego away. It is not for you. It is for the goal that you want, whether that's a job, whether it's a client. So when you're looking at it from a standpoint of building your clientele, you actually need to share insight, share information that will help them out so that they know you are trustworthy, you are a good person. They're like, okay, in the sea of lawyers that I can go to, my Google search, this person is the one that I actually trust because she gives me information for free. She breaks it down in terms that I can understand. I mean, how many times have we been in a room and you're like, you broke it down for me, but I actually have no idea what you told me. So break it down in clear English so that people can understand it and they're like, oh, you're my lawyer. That's the way it works. So, and don't overthink it. Again, throw the ego away. Do not overthink it. You are not that important. Sorry to tell you, because that's what's actually going to make you, that's what's going to make you shine. The ones that have an amazing personal brand, if you really think, I love Mel Robbins because sometimes you just need a little dose of happy and, kind of like that little swift kick in the ass to go, yeah, I need to, do something today. So she just shows up, no makeup. Here I am, spouting advice. I totally messed up today, and I'm here to tell you, it's okay if you did too. And that's the kind of thing, the realism, that is what's gonna lead to a great personal brand. Okay, and this is one of the things that I talk about a lot, is that you have to lead with altruism. Again, giving information that people actually want, that is going to lead to a great personal brand. So these three things are just one of the biggest things that I talk about all the time. And it kind of is actually what differentiates me from a lot of other marketers out there, because they're like, oh, you need all these little marketing things and things like that. And I was like, you know what? No, these are the actual keys to success. The ones that are really great get this. So I'm going to tell you about building your personal brand, but never forget this. This is like a monthly check-in kind of thing. Okay, do a little self-check. Am I doing these things? All right. So your personal brand is not your logo. It's not your statement. It's not all of these things that people freak out about. Oh, my website's not perfect. You know what? No one cares. If you're giving good information, nobody actually cares. Really, they're going to give you a break. It's not your social media profile. It's nothing. Nobody cares. All right, so then one of the biggest reasons why you should care about your personal brand is because you already have one, because we just talked about the fact that I can Google you, I get a gut feeling of you, all that sort of stuff. So you already have one, and it's either helping you or hurting you. So super, super important that you take control of the narrative. All right, so I thought I would find this little stat. Sorry if it makes some of you guys upset, but basically, this is why your personal brand is important. Because a lot of people don't trust lawyers. So 35% of Americans trust lawyers. So that's why. So if you actually show that you care and you show you're human, you show your human side, that is what is going to differentiate you from the rest. All right, so the core elements of building your personal brand: authenticity, consistency, frequency, visibility, and what makes you unique. I'm going to go through all of these, don't worry. But again, I've kind of talked a lot about authenticity, right? Your authenticity is really what's going to make you shine. Because there's a lot of people, you know, when you guys applied for law school, on paper you may have looked very similar to someone else, but there was other factors in there that made you different from someone else. So that's the unique factor. That's what you can bring with your personal brand. And one of the things that a lot of times people are like, okay, I'm so excited. It's like going to the gym, or I'm gonna run a marathon. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I have a plan and everything's great. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, something will happen. You wanna work out at night and then something will happen. You can't work out at night, right? So you're like, what do I do? So be truthful with the time that you actually have so that you can consistently show up and do it frequently. That's what I ask. So it's like, if you can only do it one time a week, then do that. But be consistent with it, because it will have impact. And it's like an annuity. It compounds over time. So consistently showing up, it will compound, get better over time. All right, so visibility. So again, don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm just going to say it. Sometimes when you raise your visibility, a lot of the people that your loved ones, your friends, people like that, sometimes they'll be jealous, they'll be snarky, they'll make little comments. So I see some of you guys, their faces, yeah, it sucks. I have been there. Do not let them bring you down. Do not let them take away your shine. Like, keep going. So anyway, that's one of the biggest things. I see this a lot. I see this with my clients. We work with CEOs and executives. They'll have someone that'll say something like they don't like the way they look. They don't like their hair. They don't like the outfit they wore, whatever it was, and they will self-sabotage. So just don't let it happen. All right, and so again, bring what makes you unique. All right, so the steps to building it, we're gonna go through these steps, but self-assessment, choosing the right platforms, crafting your personal brand statement, creating content, and all important, networking. May not have been something you thought about with your personal brand, but it's the thing that, remember, it's all of the things together, not just one thing on its own. So what makes you unique? It's everything about you. You can even ask your friends, like, what is it about me that makes me unique? What are my personality traits? All this sort of stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you are very passionate about a form of law. Like, you kind of have an idea of where you want to go, right? So show that passion through the content that you share. And that's ultimately, this is the time to kind of figure out like who you are, how you want to show up, and it can change. I was actually just talking to Katie about how they're going to go through a rebrand. Rebrandings are fine. I've rebranded many times, and it's totally fine. It's life. Life is a rebrand, right? So ultimately, the last two, what are you passionate about and who do you want to help and why? Those are just going to be really good things to know and think about when you're creating your content. All right, so what is the state of your personal brand? How many of you have actually Googled yourself? Okay, not everybody. Interesting. Please Google yourself. It is a good thing to know. And if you've never Googled yourself, you might be surprised to learn what you find about yourself. So that's what I was talking about earlier. You already have a personal brand because I can Google you. So what is out there about you? It's probably, your Instagram, your Facebook, some of those kind of things, but you never know. It could be your law school, tagged you in a photo or something like that. So you want to know what's out there because that is already the groundwork of your narrative. So now know what's out there so that you can then shape it to what you want it to be. Okay, so the key is to build your personal brand foundation. So all of these elements and everything that you know, so you know where you started from. Now we're gonna lay the foundation. And it may sound crazy, but how many of you guys have a website? Own your domain? Nobody. Please go and get your domain.
I like that.
Go and get it, because even if you don't use it today, you can use it eventually. Go to GoDaddy.com. There are plenty of others. I use GoDaddy, not making any money off it. They're just ones I've used forever. And one of the most important things that I want you guys to think about, when you do it, I want you guys to also get the private registration. Now here's why. If you don't get private registration, your phone number and your email and your home address will show up online when someone does a who is search for your website. Yuck. So, privacy for $9 a month, best money I'll ever spend. Get your domain, and you can always figure it out later. But it's super, super important. You know, maybe even ask your parents if they bought it for you. I know I bought my stepdaughters like years ago, because I was like, I know she's not thinking about it. And if she's like, someone bought my website, I'm like, yeah, me, like 15 years ago. So anyway, ask your parents if you can't find it, it's not available. You might need to get a little creative. If someone has your name, you know, use a middle name, middle initial. So there's many ways to do it, but your full name is going to be important. I'm not a fan of like underscores and cutesy things. And then you could always use law or whatever it is, but your full name is going to be important, because that's going to be important for SEO. When someone does a Google search in your name, you want your website to come up first, because we're trying to own the narrative on your own name. So that's going to be really, really key. So then your social media handles. You're going to want to, now that you got your domain, you're going to want to register the same name with all the social media sites you can think of, like everything you can think of, even if you're not going to use it. As soon as Threads opened up, I jumped on it, and then everyone's not really using it. But anyway, I have it at Clairbon, and no one else can steal it. So go and get that as soon as you can, and make it the same as your, as your domain. You want to make it easy on people. Sometimes we even have clients that will buy their domain, and I'm like, I have no idea what their domain is. I have to research it. Don't want to do that. You want to make it super, super simple for people to do. So then, we talked about this before, your personal brand statement. Now, some people will get so fixated on the words. They'll think about all of these things. They'll think about the meanings of things, and they'll change it 8 times. Again, not important. You do not want to. I had a business coach, and it's one of the most important things that I learned. A confused mind says no. Don't confuse people. So one of my jobs early on, I worked for a company called Norsworthy Fund. I lived in New York. Financial capital of the world. A lot of people thought we were a mutual fund. No, we were an event design firm. It was a big problem because it was a fund of knowledge. And I'm like, no one thinks that way. So again, you have to kind of, not dumb it down, but you have to really just, don't make it so complicated. And people don't want to have to pick up a dictionary to figure out what your personal brand statement is about. Especially when we want to be hired as a lawyer, right? You want to make it simple. People kind of really just want to understand what you're about. So then you're going to be creating content. So this is the part, so you might be like, oh, content. This is really crazy, but there's so much experience that you have. This event, take photos, share your experience, share what you learned, share people that you met. That shows who you are, what you did, and what makes you unique. So all of the things that you do in your daily life, charity work, anything that differentiates you from the rest, that is what is really, really, really important. So, and then eventually, when you get into your legal practice, that is when you're going to be really sharing your expertise. What something you dealt with in court, obviously, that you can talk about, and things like that. So, things that you're learning, things that, what you've learned, how you help people, things like that. So now that you've got your website, you've got all these social media handles. The most important thing is to focus, because I said consistency and frequency were really important. So don't bite off more than you can chew. Focus on the ones where your ideal audience actually is. So probably LinkedIn is probably really important for all of you guys. And then figure out what other one might be another platform for you. Maybe it's X, maybe it's Instagram, whatever it is, but that is where you need to focus your attention. So you don't have to, go everywhere, but I do think an omni-channel approach is key. Otherwise, so you own your website, which is great, but you do not own your platforms on Instagram. You don't own them on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything like that. So you're beholden to the algorithm and all of these other things. So keep that in mind. It's important, but omni-channel is best. All right, so networking. This is networking. Networking is super important. I am not the best networker, so that's why I know it's so important. I wish I was the best networker, but yeah, I'm the one that will go with my girlfriend and sit in the back and we'll chat about what happened this week instead of actually being involved. Anyway, but it's so important. Seek out mentorship and guidance. That is actually for me probably been one of the biggest and most important things in my career that has helped me with many jobs. Is just literally having someone that you trust. And I don't ask anything from them in return, but you just can, pick their brain, take them to lunch, talk about things, someone in your field. And sometimes they'll just go, I have this opportunity. I know who to call. And they'll just think of you. So it's always a good thing to have someone that you can talk to. All right, and then professional organizations, to attend conferences, and do all that sort of stuff. In person and online is going to be really important. All right, and then let's talk about online networking. So online networking, you are in a giant conference room and no one knows you're there. You're essentially walking up and tapping them on the shoulder and just saying, hey, I really love that insightful piece of content you shared. Thank you. That's how you show up in online networking. So be kind, do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. So many people they're like, Claire told me to network, so I'm spamming people, sharing, telling them, thanks for this post, yay, congrats. Yeah, don't do that. So you find leaders in your field that are sharing stuff that's really important. You find it insightful. Go and make a great comment on their stuff, and they'll go look at your profile and they go, oh, who's she? Let me look up. Yeah, so really important. All right, so we were talking earlier about getting privacy with your domain. Privacy is important. So think about, there are plenty, I follow a couple of guys on Instagram that'll literally tell you all the crazy things that you need to think about for your phone. It's what? How is this possible? And every new update on your phone adds another layer of privacy that I need to be crazy about. But be mindful of it. And personally, what I try to do is if I am I'm here, I'm not going to post that I'm here now. I'm going to post that I'm here later. Privacy is important, so especially for women. All right, and then monitor your online presence. Go to Google. Just Google it. Google your name, and then eventually you're going to want to show up for your area of expertise. So that's another thing you're going to want to monitor. I think it's really important because a lot of people ask me what do I wear in my videos? What do I show up? How do I show up in my photos? I think it's important to show up like you would for a meeting. All of you guys look really professional here. Just show up how you would for something like this or for an interview. That's how you show up because that's who they want to see walk through the door. Interestingly enough, I had a client, I did a Zoom call with her and she was like, you look just like your photo. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, yeah, well, I am a former actress, so that was actually something that I learned. A lot of times people's headshots would be so different, overly retouched or whatever, and they would be like, well, I wanted this person to walk through the room. And that's who I was gonna hire. Well, but that makes sense. If you needed to hire, late 20s, early 30s, and late 30s, early 40s walks through the door, it's I concur. Yeah. All right. So if there's one thing I want to make sure that I leave you guys with here today is that you have a personal brand, and you are either in control of the narrative or you're not. So take control of the narrative because it's so amazing and powerful, the things that you have at your fingertips. If you think about 20 years ago, law students did not have this power. That's amazing. So shape your narrative, show who you are. And yeah, it's a very exciting thing. I absolutely love everything that your personal brand can do for you. All right. So now we're here to Q&As. I know that you had a question, so let's hit it.
So 2 questions. So on the private part of like your domain, does GoDaddy have that?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll literally be something like you like put it in your cart and it'll say, do you want to buy privacy? Yes.
Okay. And then the omni-channel, if you could go further into that, then
Many channels. So you want to, so you want to have your website, you want to have YouTube, you want to have LinkedIn, you want to have Twitter. Many places that you can be sharing your content. You can slightly tweak it for the platform. Right, Reels really popular on Instagram. Maybe not as much on LinkedIn. Maybe all that. Just share the same type of content, only slightly different, depending on the platform. But ultimately, you see, I've seen people. So they're an influencer on TikTok only. And there's been like controversy. Will TikTok stay? Will it go? For years, right? Could you imagine you have 3 million followers on TikTok and you don't own it, and then it could just go away. So I actually spoke to a woman, did private coaching, and I was like, get an email list and get on YouTube. And she's like, isn't YouTube dead? I'm like, no, it's not dead. It's owned by Google. It is not dead. And get their emails. Email lists, that can be another channel. So you want to have multi ways to contact people to tell them what you're doing. So that's super, super important because you don't want to be beholden to one.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can I say something about the domains, just
Yeah.
because I found a cheap way to do it? Google domains includes privacy. So you pay, I think it's like $12 a year.
I don't know. I've always done GoDaddy,
Yeah,
forever.
I have GoDaddy too. but
Yeah,
I realized
Google domains. There's so many of them, yeah. All right, any other questions?
So if you want to start your own practice, do you suggest using the name as the domain, or do you create like a term or something that would target your main audience?
So I got clairebond.com back when I was an actress. It is now Claire Bond Group's website. So again, rebranding. Yeah, at one point, clairebond.com was a lifestyle blog that I had called Living with Claire. I got the domain Living with Claire, and now I moved up to that. Rebrand all the time. You can change. Yes.
I have an Instagram page that is like the International JD that talks about travels and everything. I'm not trying to put but you were talking about having your first and maybe your first and last name as your official site, like website. Would you recommend that I use my existing platform and create a website, or just use
I would get both options. I can't even tell you how many websites I own. I'm like, if I have a whim, I go to GoDaddy.com and I'm like, I'm going to buy that one and that one and that one and that one. Yeah. Anyway, but you just don't know. And it is like a very important thing. If I have a program that I come out with, I get the domain for that. You just don't want someone to you guys are lawyers, right? So I know that your domain doesn't mean it's your trademark, but it's a very good, important step of getting your trademark. So that's why I think getting both would be a good thing. Then you have to decide whether you get like a secondary Instagram or something like that for your name only. You could also change your handle to be your name. So there's lots of ways to do it. Yeah.
I think my question touches on that question specifically. Like, do you, I don't know, I guess I'm thinking, I already have two last names, and then I'm later changing my last name. Am I gonna have to create multiple websites with different last names, or later on I can because you touched on rebranding, but yeah.
All you have to do is it's literally just a point with your registrar. Like if you had GoDaddy or Google Domains, you literally just say, my website is hosted at this IP address, and instead of it being this name, it's now called this. So it's super simple. I have my married name. Bon is my maiden name. I've just always used it for business, but I have my married name, my maiden name. So get all the names. Because I like options. I have so many options. So keep your options open is what I think. Yeah.
I guess kind of piggybacking on that, for you, since you said you use your maiden name for your, do you use your maiden name professionally and then your married name? Or I don't know if you took your last name, but
Yeah.
use that personally, or?
Yeah. Like I did legally change the names. Like my passport, driver's license is my married name. But we actually made friends of mine, we were talking about my personal brand when I went into acting, and they were just like, Claire Bond is just cooler. Like, yeah, your married name is kind of, I don't like it. So sometimes, again, it's a gut feel, right? So that's why we changed it. So just keep your options open. Like I bought my stepdaughter's domain because I want to keep her options open. She wasn't thinking about it when she, in high school. So I am. Yeah, anyone else?
How often do you post your content? I guess it depends on the platform and I guess your audience, but obviously trying to stay consistent with your audience, but also I guess not trying to spam them and just like,
I mean, best practices change all the time. I literally had my team, I have them regularly go out and be like, what is the best practice now? Because it changes all the time. LinkedIn says no more than 30 times a month. Because again, there's a lot of like salesy, spammy people on there. But like Twitter is like 30 times a day. Good job. Like they don't care. So Facebook again wants more. I don't know if anyone's really on Facebook anymore, but Instagram, sometimes they used to say a couple times a day. That's kind of hard, especially if it's Reels. TikTok, again, they want at least one a day. It just depends, but that's why you have to bite off as much as you can chew, because it's just too much. So it's, I'm a really big fan of repurposing content. If you get like a blog, you can create a reel or something around it. You could do a YouTube video. It could inform a YouTube video that you then create. Then that could be a reel. Then that could be, any number of content. So repurposing one piece is really ideal. So I just don't think of it as like all of this stuff. Just say, okay, this is actually what I can commit. And where do I want to put my time? So think of it that way instead of like, 30 times a month. That's a lot. So, yeah.
How do you be like on all these channels and still like remain like in private? That seems like a little.
If you guys find me online, I'm constantly sharing personal branding tips, snippets. I'll do reels about a lot of what I covered here. I will have a conversation with someone and it'll spark something and I'll create a reel. So it's my life, but I share my puppies, but I don't share really anything else about my life because it's really not anyone's business. Yeah. So I like to be private. So for my acting, and then I did like food blogging, I did a YouTube channel. And so I was really into just like, here I am, here's what I'm doing. I always had engagements with companies and things like that. And I was like, I was worried about my privacy. So yeah, just do what makes you feel comfortable. I have some clients that are they'll show their children's, faces, and they have others that are put like a little emoji over their face. So it's ultimately, again, while I give you these guides, there's so many ways to meet the goal without compromising your integrity, who you are and what you feel comfortable with. And that's the most important thing. So I don't think I'm inauthentic because I don't show my family. Because literally, if you watch a video, I sound just like I do right here. So it's the same person that shows up, and that's ultimately what you want. It's the same authenticity, the same everything that you bring, but yeah, I don't have to show you what my family is like. It's no one's business, because it always looks really good from the front. But when you see behind the scenes, you see all the wires that I gotta trip over and try to like not kill myself to get by. That's what it really looks like. All the wires, all the crazy, and that's fine. But so sometimes just kind of showing that little bit of behind the scenes, like, hey, yeah, things aren't perfect.
I understand like the power and the age of social media that we're living in, but personally, I've never been a fan just because, I like to be more private. Do you think that social media presence is something that we absolutely have to have, or can we still, create our brand, person to person and connection outside that social media presence?
Well, do you like to help people?
I do.
Okay. Think about helping somebody. Think about, instead of what I don't want to do, think about if I actually really helped somebody with this information that I gave away for free, would it make you feel good? So that's just one thing I want you to think about. But ultimately, this decision is yours, what you feel comfortable with. But the two things to think about are competition, when it's really competitive, whether you get that job when you're out there looking for jobs, whether you get that client, it's super competitive. And if there's somebody else out there that's taking the lion's share of the spotlight, people are going to gravitate to that person because they feel like they know them. And that's just the reality. So you have to decide what, ultimately you feel comfortable with, but that's the ultimate thing. So when I get asked this question, I'm like, you're either a competitive person or you love to help people. And one of those two things will give you your answer. And the thing that I actually coached with somebody, and he was like, I read one of your blogs. He's like, I printed it out and I took notes in the margin. And he's like, it was so insightful. Thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. Like, that made me feel really good. So when I actually give away content, it's personal branding, but it helps people and they're very happy, and that makes me feel good. So that's ultimately kind of, because a lot of times when you're showing up, you're not getting feedback. You're not getting feedback like, thank you so much for being there. You're just out there doing it. And you have to know that you're helping people. That's what helps me. And that's why I said you have to have altruism in your heart. Because just like, Mel Robbins and a lot of these people that help people, at one point they were talking to nobody. And then another person listened. And then another person listened. And that's ultimately it. So I hope that helps. Okay. And you had a...
Yes. I'd say that my question is similar to hers, but in a different context. I am a part of the generation that kind of evolved with social media. So when I was in college, Facebook had just started.
Yeah.
My purpose in using it was because I was in Florida and my family was in LA and New York and all over, and I wanted to see my little cousins grow up. And so it was more personal and us keeping in contact visually with each other, as busy as I was in different time zones. And then it started to take a turn and evolve into more than that. So now I'm in law school, and when I get opportunities, like law school is a volatile environment, very competitive. And when I get opportunities, I don't jump at the opportunity of sharing it on social media, but my classmates will be like, why didn't you announce it? Or why didn't you post it? I'm like, because the people that I want to know are my cousins, and we text about it. I need to post it, they already know, but it's evolving into this, it's a part of your resume obligation thing now. And I don't really know how to shift into that. I'm a little bit defensive.
Yeah, look, instead of looking at I have to do this and it's an obligation, think about the power you have at your fingertips to get what you want, to get an opportunity that you want. That is how you need to kind of just change the look of it, how you feel about it. And ultimately, I likened your classmates that are mentioning, oh, I got this award or I did this thing. You might feel, let me tell you if I'm on the right track, that it's selfish, that it'd be braggy if you said that, possibly. I'm getting some nods. So ultimately, it's the way don't post it in that way. Change kind of the way that you post about it. I'm connected with some CEOs on LinkedIn, and a lot of times they'll post, oh, my company got best places to work in 2023. Instead, share a story. When I first started here, we were not the best place to work. I am so proud of the things that my team has done to make this the best place to work in 2023. Now that is powerful, and that's not braggy, but it's sharing the same information. So tell your story instead of, let me share a story. Okay, so essentially, I could just be like, oh, I'm going here and I'm going to speak at Pepperdine. Well, my freshman year in college, I went to CBER. And basically, I grew up in a really small town in Texas, and my guidance counselor was like, no one from this dead-end town, it's a class of 64, no one ever gets out and does anything. So they're like, don't even look at Pepperdine. I was like, so applied early admission in November and got in December. I showed her. If I shared that story, that'd be much more powerful than me saying, look, I came here and spoke. Instead of saying, you know what, it's a full circle moment. Now here I am at Pepperdine speaking. And it feels really good. That's the difference. It's sharing the story that gets people involved, and like they're like, where are we going with it? So it's instead of going like, here's this thing that I did, yay me, I call them yay me posts. I literally shared a story that says, you know what, I went on this journey and I came back here and I was kind of like, yay, everybody. Anyway, I literally never thought I'd live back in LA, so it's kind of funny that I'm back here.
Yeah, I look at it like representation matters, and so when I post, I meet, like sometimes I will meet somebody just out randomly, like when I'm grabbing coffee, like I follow you on LinkedIn, and for me, that's like I post because I didn't have a lot of people that looked like me to do it. So it's like if I post them, next you know, like, oh, I want to do that, Miss JD, can you tell me more about it? Or I've had people call me and want to do a Zoom. It's like I've never met a Black woman in law school. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like you have to find like your own purpose in it. And so one of my purposes is like, if there's a lot there, we're like less than 5% Black women, right? Yeah. And so it's like, if I post, I'm getting the opportunity to let everybody know like, hey, you can do it too. You know what I mean? Like you can, and there's options. I'm at an HBCU law school. It doesn't have to be a Pepperdine, or those are great too, but you can also go to a HBCU law school and still kill it. You know what I mean? And so I post to be like, I'm killing it, you can kill it too, and this is what, and there's that confidence, right? But it's like, not enough people telling us that we can do it. So somebody needs to tell us, like, I can be ABA chair, and so can you. But then also the networking, like maybe we don't have an opportunity to get to all the conferences, to like financially underrepresented communities can't get to all the places. But LinkedIn is free. Like I can still network with a person that's in another country, in another state, and I never went to that conference. And it opens an opportunity for me to touch people that I've never met before. So maybe just like restructuring your mind on how that, and you don't have to do a whole bunch of content, you can just share an article that's valuable.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I've met her here physically for the first time, but I have been following your social media for a minute, and you're really good at sharing information. So I appreciate you rearranging the way that my perspective is, because I think out of habit, it has just been, oh, this is just how me and my cousins communicate. And now it's shifting into this is how the professional, now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what if my cousin says this? Like, or what if because it's always been personal for me. It's never been professional. So trying to shift it into professional has been a struggle for me that I've just kind of kept it personal.
That is something that I say to people when they help people, but help your past self. Talk to your past self. And that a lot of times when people are like, what type of stuff do I share? Like, what would you have found useful 5 years ago? So I mean, a lot of times people are actually, maybe the field of law that you're going to go into would have helped you 5 years ago, let's say. And then so you would just kind of think, okay, that's what made me want to become a lawyer. And so that's the type of stuff that you share. What would have been useful to me? So yeah, talking to your past self is so important. Yeah, that's like, I mean, that's a lot of the stuff that I do now. A lot of the stuff that I do in personal branding, I had to learn how to do it. It wasn't, I knew marketing, but yeah, it was just like figuring out how to make it work for a person and how to, keep your integrity and all these things intact. Yeah, it's a lot. Well, thank you guys so much. And